What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Boyz Podcast, episode 14, part 2 of our week 1 reviews, and it's just two of us here today. The other two actually have things to do. Imagine that. Me and Carl are here. We're going to break down part 2 of the week 1 previews and get you ready for Thursday's opener.
What's up, guys?
Before we get into this, there will be some transaction news at the end. Not all of it, because there's way too much. We'll touch on some contract extensions and a couple signings that came out last week for a few teams. But, I'm going to start with the overall best team in the league last year record-wise, the Baltimore Ravens, hosting the, once again, new-look Cleveland Browns.
Once again, new-look Cleveland Browns has been a saying since 1933.
I mean, facts.
I mean, that's ridiculous. As you said, best team in the league last year, record-wise. Where are they, 12-4? 13-3?
14-2.
Oh, man. Must have missed one in there somewhere. Just right off rip, I don't see a scenario where Cleveland wins this game. Just the game's in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson's going to come out hot because he's tired of hearing that he can't win a playoff game.
Which is why nobody's going to take it seriously until he does.
Which has held true so far, but I don't know. Biggest news of the offseason for me personally, for Baltimore, is all the talk about Lamar Jackson not being able to get it done in the playoffs. And while those statements do seem kind of ludicrous, saying that he's only been in the league 2 years, it's holding true.
Because his playoff game as a rookie, he was abysmal, and people were calling for Joe Flacco. And last year, in a game they were highly favored in against Tennessee, they were blown out of their own stadium by Derrick Henry.
By Derrick Henry. It wasn't even the Titans. It was just Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. And we're going to talk about the Titans later. So that's
we're going to get there. As far as Cleveland goes, another really basic Cleveland offseason. Hired a new head coach.
Hired a new GM.
Gonna actually roll with Baker Mayfield again, which was a point of contention going into this offseason, whether or not he was going to be able to be the starting quarterback for this year.
It's a make or break year. I don't think if he doesn't have a good to really good year, he won't be the quarterback there next year.
I agree. And I've personally always thought that Baker Mayfield, in college, he was spectacular, but he's a very middle-of-the-road NFL quarterback.
Yeah, he was fine his rookie year, but, I mean, look, with Cleveland, it's always a what-if kind of thing. He's got no excuses. Chubb, Hunt, OBJ, Landry, a solid offensive line, a extremely underrated defense.
And I will say going into this season, I won't say a much better head coach because Stefanski hasn't ever coached in the NFL before as a head coach, but he has a lot more potential than Freddie Kitchens did.
Well, I mean, Freddie Kitchens...
Another
thing that hurts Cleveland is, at best, they're the third best team in this division.
I agree, and by default, they are.
Because, obviously, Baltimore, and we'll talk about Pittsburgh here at the end. Yep. But they are better than Cincinnati, but I can see a scenario where Cincinnati could potentially beat them in the ranking and the division standings.
I can see that, too, especially if Burrow comes out hot for the Bengals. I don't see a situation where the Browns are going to make up games at the end of the year.
I honestly feel like because we'll talk about Burrow and the Bengals here in probably about 20 minutes when they're hosting the Chargers. If Burrow struggles, you can't put it on the kid. He hasn't had one tune-up game, and it's against one of the better defenses in football. So,
and they're in... Not to jump the gun, but Cincinnati's in full commit to Joe Burrow mode. They literally only have Ryan Finley left on the roster behind him.
So, who wasn't terrible last year.
No, Ryan Finley actually played decently well. But back to the Browns, they didn't do a whole lot of note this offseason. They have They drafted Grant Delpit, who unfortunately his season is over with a torn Achilles.
Hate
I
to
think
see that, man. Hate to
that's
see
sad.
that stuff.
It really is. The Ravens in the draft, however, did address one of their biggest needs as put on display in that playoff game against the Tennessee Titans was middle linebacker with Patrick Queen.
How did Patrick Queen fall to the
Patrick Queen should have never been on the board when they picked, but
thanks, Green Bay.
Yeah, thanks, Green Bay. Appreciate you. Worst draft I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god. Glad we're past Green Bay.
And then they went in the second round and drafted a position they didn't really need to draft at, and they did it because best player available,
J.K. Dobbins,
who was sensational last year at Ohio State,
who is going to be the starting running back regardless after probably a couple weeks because Mark Ingram's really good for the system they run. He's just getting old.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is, it's like you run Mark Ingram for another year, you pretty much let him walk, and Dobbins is the future back there with Lamar,
Yep.
and I still think the Ravens need a receiver.
I think they do as well. I mean, outside of Marquise Brown, who has had one hell of a bulking up this offseason.
Yeah. It's
But-
just, is he going to be able to do more than just run deep slants?
Right, which is what they're going to need because they have Willie Snead, who
Okay.
has been a solid receiver his career for what he's been asked to be. But then outside of that, you have Miles Boykin, who is very unproven in this league.
Yep.
They were kind of in the Antonio Brown, Des Bryant talks, but I don't think either of those are going to be an answer. Definitely Antonio Brown's not an answer because he's going to be suspended until the end of time.
Yeah.
I
mean, I could see a potential situation. They're in win-now mode about trading a first-round pick to go get an elite receiver on the market.
I agree because Lamar Jackson is one season away from getting a massive extension.
Big time. Because I think he gets more than Russell Wilson. I don't think he gets anywhere near as much as Mahomes got, but...
Not to jump ship ahead, but the deal that Deshaun Watson got put the Kansas City deal to shame.
Oh, yeah. As any deal is going to. Kansas City is just long-term.
That's not even a shot at Kansas City. They had to do what they had to do. But there's going to be deals that make that deal look so bad over the next couple of years. But let me see. As far as my prediction for this game goes, Baltimore at home, 28-20. It kind of hurt my soul a little bit to give Cleveland 20 points, but Baltimore's defense is really unproven. They're really
it
good.
It didn't help that they lost Earl Thomas to that fiasco.
Lost Earl Thomas. Well, they didn't lose Earl Thomas. They literally were like, "You're a cancer to this locker room. We can't have you here."
I mean, yeah, but people that say Earl Thomas is washed up, he isn't. He just has an attitude issue.
Yeah, Earl Thomas has still got a few good years.
And
really solid.
The fact that he's not on a team right now doesn't mean anything. He will be on a team by the end of the month.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going 28-20, Baltimore. Vegas has them as 8-point favorites, and 48.5 over-under.
Yeah, Cleveland, free agency-wise, they brought in Jack Conklin, offensive tackle, Austin Hooper, tight end from Atlanta, which was by far...
and touching on the tight ends, they have like 7 tight ends on the roster right now fighting for like one spot.
Which is a.k.a. a Chicago Bears thing.
It's a Chicago Bears thing.
And safety Carl Joseph from Las Vegas. They re-signed Myles Garrett to a 5-year, $125 million contract extension, which, believe me if I'm correct, makes him the highest paid defensive player in the league.
Yep.
They lost 2 starters in their linebacker room, Christian Kirksey to Green Bay and Joe Sherbert to the poor Jacksonville Jaguars.
Poor Joe Sherbert, man.
They took Jedrick Willis Jr., offensive tackle out of Alabama, in the first round, and we talked about Grant Delpit. Andrew Berry is their new GM, who is 32 years old, the youngest GM in the league.
Yeah, what am I doing with my life, Ian? He's what am I doing?
Facts, man. Kevin Stefanski, head coach. We talked about it. Baker, Chubb, Landry, OBJ, Ward. I didn't even mention Denzel Ward, defensive back, who's really, really good.
Who's insane.
Myles Garrett. For Baltimore, we talked about how they were run off the field last year in the divisional round. They did a lot of in-house moves. They did. They, of course, franchised outside linebacker Matthew Judon. They kept Sam Cock, Jimmy Smith, and a few others. They did trade Hayden Hurst to Atlanta, but they used that pick to take J.K. Dobbins. And they lost Michael Pierce to Minnesota, who, unfortunately for Jordan, opted out due to COVID. Because
probably it's a good thing for the league he opted out for COVID.
Yeah, Mike. Especially considering what they did this past week, and we'll get into that later.
Yes, we will.
They're all-pro, long-time offensive guard Marshall Yanda retired, and they cut safety Tony Jefferson, who was still a free agent and would not shock me if they bring him back.
I agree.
They extended former Virginia Tech safety Chuck Clark. We talked about the Earl Thomas situation, Patrick Queen, J.K. Dobbins. They also acquired Calais Campbell from Jacksonville in the offseason. They're well coached. The roster's loaded. We've talked about Lamar. I've got Baltimore 28, Cleveland 17.
Nice.
And Carl will introduce the next
game. I don't see us agreeing on every game this week like we did last week.
No, I do not either.
Just in a little bit of prep talk we've done before this. I don't think it's going to happen.
All right. You can introduce the next one.
All right, everybody. Now, speaking of contention, this is probably going to be the first one of contention. We're going down to the new dome in Atlanta. Seattle's coming to town against the Falcons. Ian, what are you thinking?
It's one of them, probably the second best game of the lot of this lot of games outside of the, obviously outside of Tampa, New Orleans. Seattle is poised for a Super Bowl run. To me, they're the favorites in the NFC. Falcons are a mystery team in an extremely tough division. Seattle, obviously, Seattle defensively, they acquired all-pro safety Jamal Adams for a couple of first-round picks. Like they needed more defensive help. They're one of the best defensive teams in football. And their D was already good. They do have Bobby Wagner. They did lose Jadeveon Clowney, but he didn't really do a lot. So they added Carlos Hyde, which is a major plus since Chris Carson has shown, even though how good he is, he cannot stay on the field.
Or hold on to the football when he's on the field.
That too. This one hurts my heart, but they added former All-Pro tight end Greg Olsen.
The heart.
To an offense that includes their two receivers, which are Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, one of the most underrated duos in football.
Yep.
Also, the Seahawks are pretty young, so Olsen bringing a veteran presence to that weapon core help. Draft-wise, Jesus. Their first round pick was Texas Tech linebacker Jordan Brooks. I
do a lot of research for the draft. I had Jordan Brooks nowhere near the first round.
Yeah.
Nah, maybe 2 rounds later where I might have had him.
Yeah. And then obviously they got Russell Wilson. What do you think about Seattle?
Offensive line.
Yeah. As I said, when it comes to Russell Wilson, yeah.
How can you sit in your box, Mr. Snyder, and watch your quarterback run for his life his entire career? I don't understand how Seattle, as you said, they're one of the favorites, if not the favorite in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl, as they seem to have been for the last 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Their draft, very underwhelming. Seattle is not a strong draft team. And that's about as nicely as I can put that. They don't build very well through the draft.
Nope.
That's just something that they've never done. And, well, outside of stealing Russell Wilson in the 3rd round a couple of years ago. Free agency-wise, as you said, they brought in Carlos Hyde. they're trying to get younger, which I think is a smart move. But defense and Russell Wilson is going to carry them all season, as it has for the last 5 or so years. Outside of Metcalf and Lockett, however, there is quite a talent gap to the rest of the receiving corps.
Seems to be a key thing for a lot of the elite Super Bowl contenders when it comes to receiving corps. It's not that great. I mean, outside of Kansas City, we don't got to talk about that. But
and personally, I don't even know if Kansas City's receiving corps is that great on paper. They're just all really fast.
Yeah, which helps.
Can't teach speed.
No, you're just born with it, Mr. Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. And then you have McCole Hardman and Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce. And
yeah. Anyway.
Patrick Mahomes is going to win like 37 MVPs. Like, that's what's going to happen. The fact that Russell Wilson has never won an MVP.
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's a joke. If you're going to give the most valuable player in the league when it comes to being valuable to his team.
That's my whole thing. That's what the award means to me.
Oh, me too. It's become a quarterback award. It's going to be a quarterback award, which is so sad.
Honestly, the only two players that are non-quarterbacks that have any chance whatsoever of possibly getting a few first-place votes are Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Donald.
I agree. And we'll get to Aaron Donald later. That's about it on the Seahawks. I mean, they take care of their own most of the time.
Yeah.
They made a massive trade for Jamal Adams.
Which honestly doesn't really even look that bad if you look deeply into it.
No. If you look at what they gave up, which was 2 firsts, a third, and
safety
Bradley McDougall.
Well, the thing about the first-round picks is
they're going to be 27-32.
And the Jets have shown time and time again that they are incompetent of drafting.
Yeah. I mean, the Seahawks were probably going to draft a 2-star safety out of Wichita State anyway, so it doesn't really matter. On to Ian's 4th favorite team, the Atlanta Falcons. How you feeling?
The crazy thing about Atlanta is unless we're playing them, even though I know we're going to lose because we can't beat them to save our lives, I don't really mind them.
Julio Jones is my favorite player in the league.
They are a very interesting team. I do not agree with bringing back Dan Quinn, but he's a player's coach and they like him, so I kind of understand. Speaking of underrated wide receiver duos, Julio and Calvin Ridley.
I don't understand how Calvin Ridley was just there when they picked.
No, it's because the Cowboys, even though they needed a receiver, took Leighton Vander Esch, which has worked out for them.
If he can stay on the field.
And then with the Panthers were in love with DJ Moore from the time they brought him in for a workout.
And that's worked out.
Yes, I love DJ. He is excellent. And then Calvin Ridley. The Calvin Ridley situation, speaking of Dallas, reminds me a lot of what happened in this year's draft with some God for known reason. CeeDee Lamb dropped to the Cowboys.
That kid's going to be special too.
Buddha was saying that apparently every person down there has said that he's had the best camp out of anyone in that receiver room, including Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup.
Well, Amari Cooper hasn't even been on the field in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so. Like we've said to Buddha before, he's still unproven, has not taken a snap in the National Football League, so you won't hear me singing his praises just yet. But there's no way he doesn't have 700 to 1,000 yards this season.
I agree. There's plenty of targets to go around in that offense. The one he's going to end up absorbing Michael Gallup's targets, though.
Oh, I agree. I personally... Look, I love Michael Gallup, but he's going to turn into the third guy there.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that could be his role, because you don't need... I mean, yeah, Amari Cooper is a fantastic route runner, but you can't put Amari Cooper in the slot.
No.
He's a big body guy. If you can get Michael Gallup going in the slot, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Back to Atlanta.
Actually,
They added Hayden Hurst in a trade for Baltimore after they lost Austin Hooper in free agency. Hayden Hurst didn't really do much out there, so I'm curious to see how he does in this offense.
after what Austin Hooper did last year in this offense.
They added 2 former Rams in free agency and defensive end Dante Fowler and running back Todd Gurley.
Which, if they get 17 Todd Gurley,
Yeah.
this team is going to be unstoppable.
They draft in the draft their first 2 picks. Clemson cornerback A.J. Terrell.
Was a huge reach.
Huge reach, but they also needed a corner to replace Desmond Trufant, who left in free agency to Detroit.
Yeah.
He's looked good in camp. They're basically throwing him into the fire by having him guard Julio in one-on-one drills. They also added Auburn defensive tackle Marlon Davidson. He was the second guy in that defensive tackle pairing at Auburn, along with Derek Brown, to shore up the pass rush. The team has talent, but Tampa Bay and New Orleans are going to be fighting every week for position in this division.
And nobody ever talks about how good Matt Ryan actually is.
Yeah, I mean, he won MVP 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And
should have.
And was even better in 2018, but we're not going to talk about that.
No, should have won a Super Bowl. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the 28-3 jokes because I have friends that are Falcons fans.
Time management is not a thing.
I got Seattle 21, Atlanta 13.
Ooh, I have Atlanta 31-30.
Interesting. I freaking knew we were going to disagree on this game.
And Vegas is with you. They have Seattle as a 1.5 point favorite. And 49
one of the only reasons Atlanta could possibly win this game is if it gets into a shootout.
I think happens.
Because if it gets into a shootout, I think the Falcons win. I don't think it gets there because I just think Seattle is too good defensively.
Yeah, Seattle's a juggernaut. And they just keep bringing in bodies to get better.
And they're insanely well coached.
Oh, God. Pete Carroll. Oh, he's like 97 years old and still going for it.
Yeah. Our third game on the lineup is one of the more interesting games because both these teams are not supposed to be very good this year, and interesting. It is Joe Burrow making his NFL debut hosting the LA Chargers.
A lot of fans are going to be very upset that this isn't Herbert Burrow round 1. But I think them going with Tyrod, whatever his name is.
Tyrod, but everybody calls him Tyrod.
Everybody calls him Tyrod. His name is Tyrod. But I think that's the right move for them, is to start Tyrod Taylor. Justin Herbert has looked, speaking of, they took Justin Herbert, pick 6 in the first round. But he has looked really good on Hard Knocks and in all the camp videos that I've seen of him. He looks poised, but I'll let you cover the Justin Herbert thing when you get there because that's your guy. My favorite pick for them was Kenneth Murray, though. They also took in the first. That linebacking core needed help. Like, help. Because there's no other weakness on that defense.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Who was taken first, him or Patrick Queen?
Ooh. I feel like Kenneth Murray came off the board first.
That was the one thing I disagreed with. I think they should have took Queen there. But
I think they were very, very similar players. They're basically sideline to sideline guys, which, for those of you that are curious, instead of typing in Patrick Queen, I typed in Patrick Murray, and now I'm making up new football players as we go.
Nice.
Yeah. Murray came off the board first.
Interesting.
And Patrick Queen came off the board 5 picks later at 28. Chargers this offseason has been a really interesting offseason.
Interesting, but they literally nailed everything.
They did. They have nailed everything that they've tried to do this offseason. They've got their quarterback of the future. They've got a defense, which even though, unfortunately, they did lose Derwin James, is still going to probably be a top 5 defense. They did lose Antonio Gates at the end of last season to retirement. But they have Hunter Henry, which they've had for the last couple of years.
Who hasn't been able to stay on the field, which is like a key thing for this Chargers team. They're always riddled with injuries.
They're always hurt or their field goal kickers are terrible.
Yeah. I remember a couple years ago one of their field goal kickers missed 3 against Denver.
Yeah. I think there was a streak a couple years ago, too, where they lost like 4 games in a row by less than 2 points.
Yeah.
And their kicker missed a kick every single game. They did lose Melvin Gordon to a division rival, Denver Broncos, but once again, they have Austin Eckler, or Eichler, depending on where you are, who I think is in for a really big year. Do I think the Chargers are going to be great this year? No. But they have all the potential in the world moving forward. They paid Joey Bosa massive money, which is the right move because he's insanely talented.
Crazy thing is with how good he is, I still think his brother's going to be better.
Which is super weird. Outside of that, they didn't draft a whole lot. They only had 4 other picks in the whole draft. They've got Josh Kelly out of UCLA, and then they took a pair of receivers in Joe Reed and KJ Hill, along with safety Alohi Gilman.
The fact that they took 2 receivers when they already have 2 extremely good ones.
Yeah, even though Mike Williams is going to miss some time.
Yeah, which sucks for him because he's an absolute red zone threat.
Oh, absolutely. He's basically a tight end. I'm going to let you take it for Burrow here.
Yeah, go over some of the moves for the Chargers real quick. They made 2 moves to bolster the offensive line. They signed Brian Bulaga from Green Bay, and the other one is one of the worst trades I've ever seen.
My.
They acquired Pro Bowl offensive guard Trey Turner from Carolina for Russell Okung, who's probably not even going to play a full season.
Who probably will never play football again.
They fleeced our ass.
They did.
Defensively, they brought in Linval Joseph from Minnesota. God help this league if Minnesota was able to retain half the players they lost. And Chris Harris Jr. from the rival Broncos.
That secondary, even without Derwin James,
is very good.
Is still very, very good.
As you said, Herbert and Murray signed Eckler, signed Bosa. As far as Cincinnati, they needed to do a lot. Last year, they were absolutely terrible. They were hard last season, which ended up in drafting Joe Burrow, who had the greatest season of a college quarterback ever. They also added DJ Reader, cornerback Trey Waynes, underrated pickup, cornerback McKenzie, Alabama, and safety Von Bell to shore up their defense, which was worse than the NFL by a landslide. They franchised A.J. Green, who is going to need to stay healthy for Burrow's sake. They also have Tyler Boyd, and they re-signed Joe Mixon to a 4-year, $48 million extension, which if you look at some of these extensions for running backs, not too bad.
It's not too bad, given how talented he actually is.
And they also gave him another weapon and a guy that he was on the other sideline with in the national championship game. Took him too early, but I understand why. Clemson wide receiver T. Higgins.
Who could very well be the predecessor to A.J. Green. I
agree.
I'm not saying he's as talented as A.J. Green, but
they are very similar in
they're
stature.
very, very, they're very similar, yes.
So that should be, as far as Burrow is concerned, he doesn't have, for a number one overall pick, to not have any warm-up games to go against this defense. I think Burrow struggles off the gate, but I think he'll be fine. As far as the score for this game, I don't really think it's close. I personally think the Chargers put up 30, and the Bengals only score 13.
I got the Chargers 23-13. Vegas has got the Chargers being a 3-point favorite. The over-under at 44.
I think if Burrow, I think this game would be closer if of course this wasn't a 2020 COVID season. If this was a regular year, I think this game would be closer.
I feel like if this was a regular year, they'd probably be starting Justin Herbert too.
Oh, 100%. I will say this. As much as I think Herbert shouldn't see the field, the Chargers' injury issues and Tyrod's injury issues, I don't think there's a way he doesn't see the field this year.
Yeah, I know, and I think that's probably going to be one of the worst things for this team is that they don't need to be incredibly average. Like, you don't want to see... You either want the Chargers to be really, really good or really, really bad.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of rookie quarterbacks, just to touch on one thing. Miami Dolphins named Ryan Fitzpatrick their starter last night.
They did, which is the exact right move.
Yep. Tua will be the backup there, and as he should be.
Because out of all of the quarterbacks taken in the first, Tua is the least ready, if that makes any sense.
The crazy thing is, if he didn't get hurt, he would more than likely be playing in Cincinnati.
Right. Which...
He's got the highest ceiling of the three that were taken in the first round.
Joe Burrow, you know what you're getting.
Yep.
Because Joe Burrow is kind of old already. He's already 23.
He's 23, but he doesn't turn the football over.
He does not turn the football over. And for the other side, if Justin Herbert can work on his decision-making, he's going to be really tough to stop in this league, too.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That was the whole thing in college. It's like when he was making good decisions, Oregon would run up and down the field because nobody could stop him.
But then, if you... I don't even know where I was going with that. We're just going to move on. I got no idea where that statement was going. All right. Where are we going next? We're going to the Bay Area. Arizona in San Francisco. Arizona, one of the most talked about teams this entire offseason. San Francisco coming off a horrible loss in the Super Bowl that they should have won. Don't let anybody get that twisted. San Francisco should have won the Super Bowl. They got Mahomes. Actually, they got Shanahan.
Yeah, they got Shanahan. It wasn't Mahomes. Shanahan was just in New Orleans.
They just got Shanahan. How are you feeling, Ian, about this very young Arizona team? Very young.
Obviously, we've talked about it on the podcast before, but I'm never going to pass up a chance to drag on the Houston Texans. Cardinals acquired all-pro wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins for nothing.
Pocket lint.
They also added Isaiah Simmons in the draft, which how in the world he fell to number 8 overall.
And I'm pretty sure they're actually playing him at safety.
Yeah, that doesn't shock me at all. They also added Josh Jones, offensive tackle, which was desperately needed because Kyler Murray cannot be running for his life all the time.
No, he's not the biggest fella. You don't want Kyler Murray getting hit.
Hopkins, along with what they already had there with Christian Kirk and the man that seems to never drop anything and never want to retire, Larry Fitzgerald. They also extended Kenyon Drake, so Kyler Murray's got plenty of weapons over there.
Yes.
Defense, talk about Simmons, and they added him to a defense that includes the most not talked about performance in history. Chandler Jones, who almost broke the sack record, and no one said a word.
Didn't even get a Defensive Player of the Year vote either.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Now, there's the thing. Stephon Gilmore deserved all what he got. But how do you almost break the sack record or not get one Defensive Player of the Year vote?
That doesn't even make sense in my head.
To me, the team made a lot of improvements, but this is the toughest division in football.
Yeah. They also re-signed Budda Baker, making him the highest paid safety in the league. And I would say a lot of people don't even know who Budda Baker is.
Budda Baker's good, and I guarantee you Seattle just looked at that and went, "Are you serious?"
Yep, right.
For San Francisco, they were busy.
They were really busy.
They added veteran wide receiver Travis Benjamin, former Washington tight end Jordan Reed, 2 offensive guards, former 3rd overall pick Deion Jordan, who got cut yesterday and is on their practice squad. During the draft, they were very active. They traded for all-pro offensive tackle Trent Williams. They traded DeForest Buckner away to Indianapolis.
Whoa.
They drafted Javon Kinlaw with that pick they got from the Colts, which is the replacement.
Right up replacement.
And this one's really big because this team is destroyed at the receiver position. They added Brandon Ayuk, who they're going to need.
You know that, granted, these guys I'm going to say are far more talented than I will ever be. You're signing River Craycraft and Tavon Austin to play receiver. And now Tavon Austin's on the IR.
Here's the thing, though. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't the best thrower either.
No, you don't need... Not when you're running the ball 45 times a game like they do.
Remember... Oh, like the NFC title game that I dragged him through the mud on this podcast about 5 weeks ago?
Yeah.
About throwing 9 passes for less than 100 yards in a conference title game. Now, to be fair, they were running the ball down Green Bay's throat all day.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get it done like that.
No. Not, as you said, in the toughest division in all of football.
Who I think... Yeah, the toughest division has every game for all 4 teams on this lineup. Seattle, Arizona, San Francisco, and we'll talk about the Rams here in a little bit.
And the Rams are the worst team in this division by default.
They're not even a bad team. That's the thing.
There's nothing that they've done to actually get worse other than the fact that they don't know how to spend money very well. Or draft, for that matter, because they drafted
There's so many injuries for San Francisco at the receiver position. It kind of concerns me in this game. And I got Arizona picking up the upset win.
Ooh. I got San Francisco 24-17.
I've got Arizona 24-23.
Oh, late winner from whoever the kicker is in Arizona now.
I think the lack of receivers is going to end up biting San Francisco. I still think they make the playoffs, but I think Arizona pulls off an upset.
Yep.
And I changed my course because when I made these notes, it's 27-17 San Francisco. So.
Yeah, I just changed mine earlier too. Vegas has San Francisco at a 7-point favorite. Over under at 47.5. Which that over under is really high. So if you're a gambler, bet the under. Everyone, bet the under.
Alrighty, game of week 1.
By far, this might be game of the year.
Yeah, or at least the first round because they play each other twice. Tom Brady and the very new look Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who added another piece after I made these notes.
Love that.
The New Orleans Saints.
It's just rinse and repeat for New Orleans at this point in time.
Yeah,
they've been doing this for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's just the thing with New Orleans. They're going to win 12, 13 games, and then they're going to choke in the playoffs like they always do.
Every time. And once again, we talked about Russell Wilson earlier never winning an MVP. Drew Brees never winning an MVP is a crime.
Like, how do you throw for 5,000 yards 4 times in your career and not get MVP?
I mean, they weren't ridiculously active this offseason. If I recall, they weren't that active at all, actually. Who coach talking about? Saints? Yeah.
They brought in Emmanuel Sanders to...
Which is going to help Michael Thomas a lot.
They also brought back Malcolm Jenkins from Philly. They signed Drew Brees to a 1-year, $25 million contract to bring him back, which is going to kill them in cap space. Also, props to New Orleans. I hate their guts, but what they tried to do with Jadeveon Clowney is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I agree.
They tried. These guys tried to get Cleveland to sign him to a 1-year, $15 million contract and then trade him to them for a first-round pick and an unnamed player. The NFL went, nope.
Yeah, the NFL was never going to accept that.
But props to him for trying.
The crazy thing about New Orleans is that going into next offseason, with this current roster that they have negative $78 million in cap space.
Which means, well, here's the thing. You, of course, take Breeze off the board. That's $25 million. But you got to pay Alvin Kamara,
who low-key was not about to come to camp a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
They re-signed old Taysom Hill, though. You know, Taysom Hill, the future of the franchise, according to some.
Yeah, if that was the case, they wouldn't have brought in Jameis Winston, but...
Which is one of the... I hate that deal so much. How are you going to give Jameis Winston 1 year, and he's not even going to play unless Drew Brees gets hurt? I don't understand the thinking. I love it for Jameis, but I don't get what you're going for there.
They also took center Cesar Ruiz from Michigan with their first-round pick,
who I believe is going to play guard.
Yep.
Because they let Larry Warford go.
Yeah, they don't take any kind of setback, Saints-wise.
Oh, no, never.
As far as I'm concerned, they're still the leaders, but Tampa Bay, holy cow. Busiest team in the offseason by a damn mile.
Yeah, like, we don't even have enough time to cover everything that Tampa did this offseason.
I'm going to try to get through most of it. They let Jameis Winston walk. They franchise tagged... Why can't I remember this man's name?
Shaquille Barrett?
Yeah, Shaquille Barrett had a breakout year last year. They signed Brady and Gronk. Signed Brady and traded for Gronk.
No, they forced.
Fair.
The Patriots to break him. They traded Gronk.
They brought in LaShawn McCoy. And as much as Bruce Arians wants to say that Ronald Jones is the running back, you don't sign Leonard Fournette if that's the case.
At this point in time, just to touch on that real fast, I feel like they're trying to make 3 average to above average running backs into one giant, really good running back.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, just casual running back by committee, but...
Okay, so that's mainly the main ones. They did so much.
They did so much this offseason. Including drafting a tackle at 13th overall, Tristan Wirfs, who I actually thought was the best tackle in the draft, other than Andrew Thomas.
They all... me personally, I had him above Andrew Thomas.
Ooh. He went to the Giants, so we'll see. He's going to get a beat.
Yeah, so. 4th overall. Great job, Gettleman.
Yeah, but one of my favorite picks the entire draft was them getting Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Minnesota.
Yep.
Nobody talks enough about Tampa Bay's defense because, I mean, it was terrible. Well, their passing defense was terrible. They were first in the league in rush defense, but like 18th in pass defense or something. Their secondary is very young.
Yes, that's what I think is going to end up killing them later on. But they also brought in Keyshawn Vaughn in the draft.
Another running back.
And they got 4 running backs on this roster. Vaughn, Fournette, Jones, and McCoy.
I don't see LaShawn McCoy being on this team very much longer.
No. This team is going to be a Super Bowl contender.
which nobody has said since 2000. Like,
well, no. Here's the thing: the Bucs have been the bottom barrel of the NFC South for God knows how long.
Right, like they've been such a laughing stock. I mean, not really. I mean, Jameis was good. Jameis wasn't good. Jameis was decent, but
like speaking from a perspective of another team in the NFC South, us Atlanta and New Orleans fans just dragged on Tampa Bay for over a decade because they never did anything. They had like one winning season in like 8 years.
Yeah. They've consistently picked in the top
15
for years.
Yeah, like
for years. All right. Wait. I actually have Tampa Bay winning.
What's the score?
35-28.
I've got Tampa Bay winning 45-42.
Ooh. Las Vegas hates both of us because they have New Orleans at 3.5-point favorites.
I've got Tampa Bay in a shootout. I don't think there's defense in this game.
You mean like Giants Saints a couple years ago where they put up like 400 points?
Yeah, and like I personally think Eagle Eye had like 50 fantasy points in some leagues.
Yeah, he had 6 touchdowns that week. So
yeah, So Buddha, sucks you can't be here, buddy. But we're going to talk about your boys.
Yeah, we are. One of the most controversial, just talked about teams in the entire world, because I think they're one of the most popular franchises in the world. I think as far as fan poll goes, that the Steelers are the most popular fan and the most popular team in the world. But
they, of course, Cowboys, according to Forbes, are the most valuable.
Yeah.
Up there with the New York Yankees, who right now can kiss my ass. And
I mean, considering that Jerry Jones bought this team 30 years ago now, 31 years ago now, something like that, for, oh my God, and they're worth so much money now.
Yeah.
Oh my. All right, to the on-the-field stuff. Franchise tagged Dak Prescott.
It's been a very talkative talking point between a very talkative, controversial talking point between us four here on the podcast, especially Delby and Buddha.
If y'all haven't figured it out now, me and Ian are the calm ones.
Who don't agree on anything when it comes to the Cowboys and the Eagles. When it comes to them, I'm just going to touch on their thing real quick since they're not here. Buddha has no concerns about Dak Prescott re-signing long-term. He's like, we're focused on this year, Delby thinks there's a possibility that Dak could possibly leave. I agree with Buddha on the side of this, and I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, I agree with Buddha.
Because I don't agree with Buddha on a lot of Cowboys-related topics.
Really?
But this one, there's just no way Jerry Jones lets that go.
No, there's no way. They still have Zeke. Outside, I think even bigger news that nobody talks about is that Travis Frederick retired.
Yep, and they drafted Tyler Biadasz from Wisconsin, who, my God, this school puts linemen into the league so much, almost as much as Notre Dame does.
Oh,
but
man.
The only difference is every lineman Notre Dame puts in the league is elite.
It's the darn Catholics, man. Them Catholics will get you every time.
Just to touch, also to just touch on thing before we go into the Cowboys. This is the opener for SoFi Stadium.
Ooh, I didn't even
Rams
put that together. But here we are.
The SoFi Stadium, this new stadium for both the LA teams, and since the Chargers are in Cincinnati, this is the opener for that massive new stadium, which I have seen in person, and it is gorgeous.
And the only sad thing is that it's empty.
Yeah.
Football is going to be so weird.
It will be, but it's football, and I don't care.
But it's football, I don't care.
To get into Dallas, they spent a lot of money.
They spent a ton of money.
They re-signed Amari Cooper to a 5-year, $100 million contract.
The Redskins did them real dirty.
Washington football team.
That's the football team.
They drove up the price on Cooper.
They did. And from what I understand is that they never actually intended on signing Amari Cooper.
No, they were just trying to screw Dallas. We talked about Dak. They signed Andy Dalton to back up Dak Prescott.
Fantastic signing.
They added Aldon Smith,
who I literally forgot was a person.
They added 2 defensive tackles from our horrid run defense. Gerald McCoy.
Greatest run defense of all time you had last year.
Yeah, Gerald McCoy, who unfortunately got hurt and got released. Don Terry Poe, who hasn't done anything God knows how many years.
He threw a touchdown pass once.
Yeah, like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
They, of course, added kicker Greg Zuerlein, which was big because they've had massive kicking issues since they weirdly released their best kicker of all time a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And they also added they also added safety, the best name in football, Clinton Dix.
And then cut him.
Yep. Biggest news for them, Everson Griffin.
Yeah.
To go along with DeMarcus Lawrence.
Oh God.
And along with that linebacker core, secondary is still a massive issue.
Chidobe Awuzie, or Awuzie, depending on how you want to say it, is their number 1 corner now. Let Byron Jones walk.
We talked about CD. They also added Trevon Diggs.
Stephon's brother.
Yep.
Not as big of a diva. If you haven't figured out yet, I really don't like Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I've really got that assumption.
I really don't know why. That about sums up
They also fired Jason Garrett, which was a move that needed to be made 5 years ago.
Who's now the offensive coordinator in division rival New York.
Yeah, have fun with that, Giants.
Right.
They hired former Packers head coach Mike McCarthy.
Fantastic hire.
I've told Buddha on plenty of occasions on this podcast and off air that if this team does not make the playoffs, it is an absolute joke.
Right. He should never speak again.
This team has easily one of the most talented rosters in football. And
they have one of the best drafts this year.
Not only make the playoffs, this team should be in the NFC Championship game at minimum.
Yeah, I have them in the Super Bowl this year against Kansas City.
I think I had them in the conference title game. I don't remember who I had them losing to.
Seattle against Dallas is because it seems to be a running theme in the championship game.
Far as on the other side, LA Rams, we talked about them. They're at best 4th best in that division.
And that's not even anything they did.
I'm not even going to talk about what they did on the field because we'll get to that. But my God, I could design a better uniform and logo.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
They're the worst uniforms for professional sports. And honestly, their helmets are fine. And
who put on those jerseys, though?
And I, of course, can deal... I can deal with their home jerseys. They aren't too bad. Those cream off-white road uniforms are some of the ugliest things I've ever seen in my life.
I really feel like they let a child design those.
Even a child could design better than those. I don't know what they were doing.
I don't understand what is happening.
They lost a lot in free agency in the offseason.
They lost a ton.
They cut Todd Gurley. They lost Fowler. They lost Clay Matthews, who's still a free agent. They lost Greg Zuerlein, and they traded Brandon Cooks, who they traded a first-round pick for 2 years ago.
The Rams haven't picked in the first round in years.
To Houston.
Yeah. The Rams haven't picked in the first round since...
What, Aaron Donald?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I think it was Todd Gurley.
I feel like it probably was. But speaking of who they did get in this draft, they did land Florida State running back Cam Akers.
And from what I've seen in camp and on Hard Knocks, wide receiver Van Jefferson from Florida is looking really good.
Looking real good. The Rams haven't picked in the first round since Jared Goff.
Number 1 overall. Yikes.
Oh, and then they're still paying that man like $33 million or something.
Yeah. And Jared Goff ain't bad, but he ain't worth that.
No, Jared Goff isn't bad. He's just not that.
They have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and now Van Jefferson, so the receiving core ain't bad. Cam Akers unproven. Tight end is Tyler Higbee, who had really good late half of the year last year.
He broke out in the last half of the year.
But you know what the Rams do got going for them?
Defense.
The best player in football, Aaron Donald. Oh, my God.
And one of the best corners in the league.
Jalen Ramsey, who, by the way, the Rams will be re-signing long-term. They didn't trade 2 first-round picks to not re-sign him.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey is the guy that started this whole tanking in Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Boye, everybody on the damn start. No, the only one left is Miles Jack, and I'm expecting him to get traded too.
Miles Jack deserves so much better.
Anybody drafted to that team deserves so much better. Yeah, they've got Aaron Donald, so that's going for them, but they lost so much. Aaron Donald,
I don't see them being a fantastic team.
No, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. It's their defense. Their offense has potential to put up a lot of points, but I think this game is closer than it appears on paper. And I think Aaron Donald is a big part of that because the Cowboys have had some injuries, especially to their tackle positions. Right tackle, Lil Collins is out. Left tackle,
Tyron
Smith is out. I think the Rams move Aaron Donald around, and he has a field day on Dak Prescott. But I think Dallas's talent is too much, but I think Aaron Donald keeps this closer than it looks. I've got Dallas 27-20.
I have Dallas 33-24 in the weird score of the week.
Yeah.
Vegas, Dallas 3-point favorites, 52-point over under. I'd take the over, everyone. All right. Which one do you want to do first, Ian? Which Monday night game?
We got the annual Monday night doubleheader, and the first one, which to me is going to be not even close, Pittsburgh and the New York Football Giants.
I do agree. This game's not going to be close.
Talent differential is freaking massive.
And I don't think the Giants win at a single position.
Except for running back.
Their roster. Except Saquon.
Yeah.
I don't... You know this more than I do, but Dave Gettleman...
Moron!
Might be the worst GM I've ever seen. Outside of Bill O'Brien. Yeah. Dave Gettleman's not great. I don't understand what Giants fans are excited about, because I know Giants fans are really excited heading into this year.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Had the phone call. Anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of Dave Gettleman, as we just spoke about earlier, Andrew Thomas at pick number 4, who arguably the best tackle in the draft, but you could have traded back and still got a tackle in this draft if you really wanted one that bad.
I agree.
One of the deepest tackle classes I've seen in a long time. Round 2, they've got Xavier McKinney out of Alabama, first-round talent, and he's done for the year already with an injury. Outside of that, their draft was very unamusing. They filled some holes, I guess. It's one of the not as good drafts from 2020. I just don't think that has anything to do with much. The Nate Solder starting tackle, was going to be starting left tackle, opted out of the season. So So that's going to force Andrew Thomas to play left tackle instead of the design right tackle that they drafted him for. They had all of the off-field stuff with DeAndre Baker. And
Yikes.
Yeah, that we don't even need to touch on that. Doesn't seem like a very good person. Most notable all-season signing to me will be former Florida State and Carolina Panther kicker Graham Gano.
Gano. I forgot he went to Florida State.
Yeah. We had a string of kickers there for a while.
We don't talk about that one.
Yeah. Nope. Nope.
Ooh, what's this? Oh.
Did I miss something?
Cincinnati Bengals have placed cornerback Trey Waynes on the reserve injured list with a torn pectoral muscle.
Oh, well, there goes that season.
Yikes. They re-signed cornerback Torrey McTyer to fill the roster spot.
Oh, and back to the Giants. They did just sign Logan Ryan a couple days ago.
Yes.
Which he was one of the probably top 3 remaining free agents heading into this season. And I don't know yet if they're going to... I know that he had talked about moving to safety. I don't know if they're going to play him at corner or safety because they need the help at corner really bad. Outside of former Carolina Panther James Bradbury.
Who, at this point, I really wish we would have just paid.
Right.
Honestly, looking at it now, I like him, and I don't think he was worth the money, but I'll take him as a cornerback 1 over Dante.
Yeah, Dante Jackson has a very specific set of skills. Shout out.
Not cornerback 1 skills in the NFC South.
No.
That's the thing about Bradbury. That dude locked down the best receivers in football. Like Julio and Michael Thomas and Mike Evans. They really didn't do a lot, which is going to help him out in New York, going against Terry McLaurin and especially Amari Cooper. The Eagles.
Whoever the Eagles find to put a jersey on to play wide receiver.
Yeah.
Heading on to the other side of the field, the Pittsburgh Steelers. A very Pittsburgh draft. Pittsburgh didn't need a whole lot heading into this season. Or heading into this all season. The biggest question for the Steelers is Big Ben. Which it has been for years now.
Also on the Giants, they placed, this is a couple days ago, but they placed their second-round pick Xavier McKinney on injured reserve.
Yep, done for the year. That's sad. It's always sad to see these kids get hurt so early in their careers. It's sad at any time, but I guess if you're going to get hurt, this might be the season to get hurt anyway.
Oh, also a little move from Carolina that I noticed the other day, and this is not the one yesterday I sent you that I was baffled by. They claimed 3 players. Sharif Miller, defensive end, cornerback Russell Douglas, who Philly cut. This one is interesting. Offensive tackle Trenton Scott, who played 10 games last year because Russell Okung had an injury. He was Okung's backup in LA last year.
Ah.
Interesting little tidbit. To me, that proves that they don't have confidence in Greg Little playing left tackle.
No, Greg Little's more of a guard to me.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Back to the Steelers. The drafted wide receiver Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame.
Pittsburgh with wide receivers, yeah.
The man's a tight end. Okay, he's 6'4", 238.
That's a big boy.
That's a big man. Other than that, they really just signed depth or just drafted depth players. Nothing really of note. In the 4th round, they got Kevin Dotson, who's a guard, who might actually end up playing this year. And then they got Antoine Brooks Jr. out of Maryland in the 6th round, which is a fantastic pick. As far as off-season moves, I don't really recall them doing a ton.
I don't have a single one in my notes.
They signed TJ's brother Derek to a contract to play fullback.
Yeah. As far as going into Pittsburgh, they do got Big Ben back this year. Thank God for them.
Right.
They still got Juju, James Conner. They added Eric Ebron in free agency. There's the one, by the way.
There's the
James Washington. This team's defense is top 5 in the league, and that's my opinion. TJ Watt is going to be on the level of his brother, and I cannot believe that's being said. Produced 14.5 sacks last year. I still have a bit of resentment toward TJ Watt for obvious reasons due to that Cam hit. But Cameron Hayward, who they signed to a 4-year, $71.5 million extension last night.
Which is a ton of money for somebody already over 30.
Yep. But he's kind of worth it because he's very good.
Yep.
They've got Devin Bush, who was very good last year in his rookie season. They got Bo Dupree at the linebacker position. Secondary is elite.
Yes.
They got Joe Hayden, very underrated safety duo, and Terrell Edmonds, go Hokies, and Minka Fitzpatrick, who they nailed that trade.
Yeah, the Dolphins got fleeced.
Who, of course, did the Dolphins take with that first-round pick anyway?
Would that have been this year?
Yep. It wasn't Tua because that was one of their own. I think it was their offensive
Well, it was the last one, right?
No, that wouldn't be the last one. That would be Houston's.
They took Austin Jackson.
Yeah, lineman. Minka Fitzpatrick was crazy last year. He had 7 interceptions, and 5 of them came within like 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Chase Claypool. They're the second best team in the AFC North. Baltimore is above them, obviously, but this team is going to be very, very good if they stay healthy. Giants, Saquon, Daniel Jones, that's pretty much it. Saquon still ran for over 1,000 yards last year, even though he missed 4 games with a high ankle sprain. Daniel Jones did impress last year, but this wide receiving core is not good at all.
Not good.
Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard, the line there is absolutely terrible, which is why they took 3 offensive linemen in the draft. They took 2 offensive tackles, and Andrew Thomas and Matt Pert, and offensive guard Shane Lemieux from the best offensive line in college football last year from Oregon. Talked about Xavier McKinney. There's some projections that he could return after Week 12, but the Giants are going to be bottom of the dumps, and there's really no reason to.
Yeah, contention by then.
They also brought in James Bradbury from Carolina. Team just isn't there, and Saquon is not going to be a stacked Steelers team on his own.
No.
I've got Pittsburgh 30, Giants 10.
I have Pittsburgh 28-13. Vegas at Pittsburgh is a 5-point favorite, and the over-under's at 47.5.
On to our final Week 1 preview. This game is really interesting. The Denver Broncos, Mile High, hosting the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to start because I cannot with this team. They made that magical run to the AFC Championship game. They're favored in a lot of people to win the division, even though I don't have them favored. They brought back Ryan Tannehill on this ridiculous 4-year, $118 million contract.
Which I guess at the end of the day doesn't look that bad.
No, and then you got another running back extension. Derrick Henry, 4 years, $50 million. Here's my thing. It's like, speaking of the Giants, they're going to have a problem if these running backs keep getting signed. Because Derrick Henry is 4 years, $50 million. Alvin Kamara is going to get probably 4 years in between $45 and $50 million.
McCaffrey, $16 million a year.
Yep.
Joe at 12 or whatever it was.
And then you got Dalvin Cook, who's going to get between the 45 and 50.
And Zeke already making 13.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley is the only back in this lot that deserves anywhere near Christian McCaffrey money.
I agree.
And Dave Gettleman is going to Dave Gettleman and give Saquon Barkley $17 million per season.
Oh, absolutely.
I know how he is. They also have Corey Davis, who isn't worth what he was picked, but he's not bad.
No.
They got A.J. Brown, who was fantastic.
He was amazing last year.
A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf was that receiving core at Ole Miss.
That's insane.
This offense runs on Derrick Henry.
Oh, absolutely.
And Delby and I have talked about this on occasion. It's only a matter of time before they run him into the ground.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do that and did not re-sign him.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz back to practice.
They brought in Vic Beasley, who had a real issue getting to training camp, but he's there.
Real issue.
They added Isaiah Wilson, offensive tackle, and defensive back Christian Fulton in the draft.
Isaiah Wilson has been on the COVID list twice now.
Yeah, not good. They're pretty solid defensively. They don't got anything special over there, or, well, they didn't. They do now.
They do now.
Defensive end Jadeveon Clowney. Just so everyone knows, these notes were made for this podcast that was supposed to be done last week. So there's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney, 1 year, $12 million, could be upwards to 15. He's been linked to Tennessee for months.
Yeah.
So
he was linked to Tennessee last year.
This isn't a shock. Tennessee needed something in the pass rush. They do have Jeffrey Simmons, who was very underrated pass rusher.
Yes.
Last year. They did lose Logan Ryan. I just don't think they're going to be able to capture the magic. Ryan Tannehill is way, way, way overpaid.
It's almost the exact same situation that's happening in San Francisco.
And the Rams.
And the Rams, yes. But you're going to have to establish...
See, here's my thing. Is everyone looks at the Carson Wentz deal, too. Carson Wentz ain't overpaid.
No.
Carson Wentz, when healthy, is a top 10, verge top 10, right around top 15 quarterback in this league.
Yes.
Keith Word, when healthy.
When healthy.
That's the only issue, which is why the Eagles brought in Jalen Hurts. Oh,
yeah.
Also, the best news. I find this hilarious. These boys signed Josh McCown to a 1 year, $1 million contract as an emergency quarterback. He gets to sit home in Texas and get paid $1 million and only has to come up there if either Hurts or Wentz gets hurt.
That's insane. What a life that is.
I know, right? I'd love that job.
Right. Low-key move by the Titans was to bring in kicker Steven Gostkowski, greatest kicker in Patriot history.
Which is crazy to say because Adam Vinatieri played there.
Right.
But that's Tennessee. As far as Denver, I am extremely high on this team.
I am very high on this team as well.
Denver, Drew Lock showed out at the end of the year, and they brought him weapons in the draft.
Every weapon imaginable.
They also have Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant, who are there. They brought in Melvin Gordon in free agency to go along with Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. Then they drafted 2 wide receivers with their first 2 picks, Jerry Jeudy, and how in the blue hell he fell to them is a mystery to me. How
teams didn't jump over these teams in the draft is insane.
Yeah. Green Bay.
Right.
They also added Penn State's KJ Hamler in the second round.
Yep.
On the defensive side, they added Jarrell Casey, defensive tackle, and near the end of last year, they traded for A.J. Boye, who to go along. They did lose Chris Harris.
Yeah.
But they do have Justin Simmons, who doesn't get talked about. They have Von Miller and Bradley Chubb.
Their linebacking core is very weak, though.
Even though technically you could play Chubb and Von Miller back there if you wanted to.
They do. Their inside linebackers are not that good, or not good.
This team is better than Vegas and the Chargers. They're obviously not going to be better than the Chiefs. But with the 7 playoff format, I don't see any way, shape, or form if this team stays healthy that they're not in the playoffs.
I agree. It all depends on Drew Lock. Can he take that next step to be a franchise quarterback? Because as you said, he's got all the weapons in the world now with Sutton and Judy and Hamler and Fan. And their offensive line isn't bad.
Which is a good thing because they got three good, 2 average running backs back there.
And they did shore up that offensive line in the 3rd round and took Lloyd Cushenberry the 3rd, as well as Natane Muti in the 6th. Both play interior offensive line.
Yeah, I think this game's very interesting. Tennessee, and a lot of people are picking them, but I've said from the start they're going to have a fall off.
Yeah.
AFC South is the Colts division to lose.
I agree.
We did talk about it 2 weeks ago, but since a lot of things happened, we'll go over all that stuff in a minute. Colts are going to absolutely murder the Jaguars.
I hope so. I'm going to be real sad if we don't.
They are going to maul the Jacksonville Jaguars. As far as this game is concerned, I got Denver 20-17 on the last-second field goal.
Denver 27-20. Vegas has this game as a pick'em. Imagine that, with the over-under at 41.
Not bad. So, that's our Week 1 previews. Next week's podcast is going to be very interesting. And
it's either going to be Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday, we got to go over the games and do a little bit of the previews. And I'm hoping to have a special guest on here for a certain game, but we shall see.
We shall see
for Week 2. But now let's go into last week or so, the transactions, more of the bigger ones. We talked about Jadeveon Clowney. The Washington football team decided to be a bunch of morons again and release Adrian Peterson. And then this move I do not get at all. The Detroit Lions, who took 2 running backs in the draft, by the way, along with Kerryon Johnson, signed Adrian Peterson. What in the world is this team doing?
Adrian Peterson. I don't get it. I don't understand. The Lions have not known how to use a running back since Barry Sanders retired. And Adrian Peterson looks at that and is like, hey, that's worth a shot.
Yeah.
It's all because of his relationship with Darrell Bevel, as we talked about the other day. But And the way I understand is Darrell Bevel about guaranteed him work.
Yeah.
So, what? I don't understand, man.
That's crazy.
And what the Lions are doing. The Lions clearly in 4th.
Yeah, not even close. Speaking of, the Chicago Bears have named Mitchell Trubisky their starting quarterback for Week 1. I predict this lasts about 2 weeks.
Yeah, as we talked about, I think we've talked about it on here a couple times. It's much easier to go from the guy you have, or the guy you had, to the new guy than it is from the new guy.
Just to kind of say, my dad is not a fan of this move.
I imagine not.
He won't.
I don't know a single Bears fan
Also,
alive.
by the way, imagine passing on Cam Newton for Nick Foles.
Yeah. I mean, oh boy. The NFC North is a disaster outside of Minnesota and Green Bay. And even Green Bay is kind of a disaster.
Yeah. By the way, our special guest next week, hopefully we have him on here, is a big Vikings fan. So,
big old Vikings fan.
A
lot of money got handed out this week, Ian.
Ain't that the truth? Buffalo, this contract is a massive yikes. They signed, to me, the third best corner in the National Football League, Tre'Davious White, to a 4-year, $70 million extension with $55 million guaranteed.
That's so much money.
It's what, $17.5 million per season, something like that?
Like that, right at it.
We talked about Cameron Hayward, 4 years, $71.5 million last night.
You got the Clowney deal worth up to $15 million. I feel like we're missing one.
I'm of course going down the NFL trade rumor site, see if I see any. There's so many cuts because of the roster's trimmed. Also, this move is kind of interesting. The Raiders traded third-round pick rookie running back Lynn Bowden, who destroyed Virginia Tech in the bowl game in January, to Miami, who is loaded at the running back position as well.
They traded...
It's going to be a Swiss knife for them.
They basically traded...
Keenan Allen.
Yeah, there was Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen, 4 years, $80 million extension. He's very good, but God, that's a lot of money.
Oh, Deshaun Watson.
Oh, duh.
4 years, $160 million makes him the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a good deal. Much better than the Mahomes deal. Well, I mean, until a couple years before Mahomes starts getting paid $55 million per season.
Right.
There's just so many There a lot of quarterbacks got cut in these transactions.
They did. And if y'all want to look at them, you just go to ESPN and go to transactions.
Oh, this was a big one. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed former first-round pick Josh Rosen to their practice squad.
To learn behind the greatest, I'll say it, the greatest quarterback of all time.
I'll say, you better watch what you say there.
Yeah. And I was going to put my foot in my mouth. For at least a year, probably two. I think Brady gets 2 years out of Tampa Bay and then calls it a career.
Oh, also, another one. Your Colts signed Ryan Kelly to a 4-year, $50 million extension.
Love the deal. We got money just sitting, so...
Which is a good thing you got it sitting because Quentin Nelson's going to be paid the highest offensive lineman in history in a couple of years. Yeah. Which he totally deserves it.
Really odd news. On cut day, the Patriots cut every kicker on their roster.
Yep. Classic Bill Belichick. Jaguars have been in the news a lot because they're trading everybody. They traded safety Ronnie Harrison to Cleveland Browns for a 5th-round pick. Ronnie Harrison tweeted on social media he's free and glad to be out of that shit show.
Yes, that's a quote.
The Jaguars also traded Yannick, not even going to try.
Ngakoue.
To Minnesota. What'd they get for him? 2nd-round pick?
Yep. Which is just an extra pick that the Vikings had sitting around anyway. So.
Yep.
And he took a $5 million pay cut just because he didn't want to play in Jacksonville.
Well, I don't understand this move. I don't understand is because the Patriots cut Mohamed Sanu when they're already very thin at weapons.
Cam's used to that.
Facts.
He looked at Mohamed Sanu and was like, that guy's got too much
talent.
The
Bucs signed Leonard Fournette to a 1-year, $3.5 million contract after he was cut by Jacksonville. There's just so many in the last week. We talked about Derwin James being placed on injured reserve.
The Eagles cutting Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas.
Then there's this one from last week, which I don't get at all. The Detroit Lions signed left tackle Taylor Decker to a 6-year, $85.5 million contract.
After they gave, what is his name? Vaitai?
Yeah.
Yeah, the career backup tackle for the Eagles after they gave him ridiculous money in the offseason.
So, this is the thing about Decker. In 2019, he appeared in 15 out of 16 games for the Lions, making 15 starts at left tackle, and Pro Football Focus rated him as the 20 offensive lineman in the league out of 81 qualifying players. But that money?
No.
Like,
I mean, there's 3 premium positions in the league, and that's one of them. I guess he was just a victim of circumstance playing there.
Yeah,
quarterback, edge rusher, tackle are your 3 premier positions in the NFL.
Also, and this was also news, the Colts activated 3rd-round pick Julian Blackmon out of Utah from the NFI list.
Yeah, as was Deebo Samuel from the 49ers, who was, a couple weeks ago was in no hurry to get back for round 1.
Round 1? You mean week 1?
Yeah, that too. Week 1.
It was a 2nd-round pick and a conditional 5th to Jacksonville for Yannick.
Oh, man.
Also, what I don't understand is the Panthers, who added those 3 players, decided to cut F.A. Obata in a position we don't have a lot of depth at and waive our 5th-round pick, safety Kenny Robinson.
Yeah, I just don't.
Like, I don't get it.
I get it, but I don't get it all at the same time.
The Dolphins activated Xavier Howard from their COVID list and the PUP list, and the Jets activated Bryce Hall from the COVID list, and he's going to be a good get for them.
One of the, not really major, but Shaquem Griffin, the one-handed player, for those of y'all who aren't familiar with him, born with a disease, I believe. I don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, he only has one hand. And he got cut. His brother also plays for the Seahawks.
Philadelphia Eagles announced that Jason Peters will be starting at left tackle next Sunday against Washington.
And that Carson Wentz, full participant in practice.
Thank God Beard's not here.
Oh, I know. Shaquem Griffin was born with amniotic band syndrome. So that basically means that the fingers on his hand would have never fully developed. So they took his hand off very young.
Yes, I remember that.
They did it when he was 4 years old. Him and Shaquille are twins, for those of you who don't know. I'm just glad that football's 4 days away.
Me too, man. There were so many trades this offseason.
There was a ton. How do you feel about y'all cutting Reggie Bonifant?
I expected it. It was clear as day, and that he was getting beat out by Mike Davis. I was one of the people that was kind of hoping Carolina would bring AP to be behind McCaffrey. And
the Falcons ruined their all first-round offense when they cut Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah. This is insane. Like, just looking at these offseason trades, you got Russell Okung, A.J. Boye, Calais Campbell, Hopkins, Hayden Hurst, DeForest Buckner, Diggs, Jarrell Casey, Nick Foles, Darius Slay, Kyle Allen. Thank you. Brandon Cooks, Gronk. There were so many trades during the draft. Matt Breida, Marquise Goodwin, which unfortunately for Philadelphia opted out. Jamal Adams, Yannick. Yeah, there's just so many trades with known name players.
Right. I feel like it has a lot to do with what's going on in the world right now.
Looking at the NFL, all right, who do you think had the best draft?
Best draft, I lean towards the... Oh, gosh. I can't remember if I gave the Ravens and the Cowboys both A+.
And I don't gotta ask you who's the worst, because it's weird to know the answer to that.
Yeah, Green Bay.
Talk about our team's practice squads. Because it's easier to talk about just ours. Colts only have 14 on theirs.
Yeah.
Out of 16. Pretty only notable name is Chad Kelly.
Yeah, and a lot of
not really any crazy names on here.
No, none of the cuts we made were unexpected for the first time in a while. For the first time in a few years. We didn't let go of somebody that I was very sad to see go. I guess the most shocking was Roosevelt Nix, but he's a fullback. Fullback is a dying position.
There's not really a lot of shockers on people's.
No, this was a very, of course, with the new rule, the COVID rule for this year that you can have 16 players on your practice squad.
Yep.
Of potentially any age.
Carolina's only got 13.
I'm guessing they're leaving a couple spots open just in case.
really only notable name only notable name on ours happens to be Reggie Bonifant. He's on our practice squad. Carolina is one of the only teams in the NFL this year that is keeping 3 quarterbacks on the active 53-man roster.
Yep.
Teddy Bridgewater, and the backup job is still undecided between second-year quarterback Will Grier and P.J. Walker.
And I feel like that's because they know that if they release one of the other two, that they'll get claimed by somebody else.
My own thing about that is Matt Rule said that it might change week to week who's the backup quarterback.
Which I guess that makes sense, because if you get one guy some reps 1 week, just to keep him in football shape, I don't see that being a problem.
Notable for the Rams, quarterback Bryce Perkins.
Colts have 3. Colts are going to go with 3 active.
Phillip Rivers,
Brissett, and Eason.
Oh, Jacob Eason. Yep.
Because we can't put Eason on the practice squad and somebody else take him.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, nobody really... I think the most notable name is Shaquem Griffin. Honestly.
I do. I don't... Oh, and Ryan Connolly, linebacker from the Giants, who played very well last year, but got hurt. Got cut as well.
Oh, Vikings have Jake Browning on their practice squad.
Yeah.
Out of Washington. I hate that, man. They have 2 quarterbacks on their practice squad. Okay, Minnesota.
Just in case, you know.
They also have Chase McLaughlin. Oh,
yeah.
Am I also the only one that finds it funny that the Colts punter and kicker are both undrafted free agents?
And one of them's name is Roberto, and one of them's name is Rigoberto. I'm literally calling Rodrigo Blankenship goggles for the rest of my life.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact he went undrafted is crazy to me. He's easily the best kicker that was available.
And the kickers that did get drafted, I'm pretty sure only one of them actually made a team.
Yeah. I'm going to go through what they say are the top 20 free... I'm just going to go through the top 50 free agents that are available right now. Number 1, that's easily guessable.
Yeah.
Earl Thomas, they've got... by the way, this is NFLTradeRumors.com I'm getting this from. 2 is HaHa Clinton Dix. You got 3 is Larry Warford, Demarius Randall, Eric Reed. Why did we cut Eric Reed? Prince Amukamara, Damon Harrison, Devontae Freeman.
Who is visiting the Jaguars.
Of course he is. Rashad Jones, Todd Davis. That's who they got as the top 10. Other notable names, Delaney Walker.
Yeah, I think Delaney's career's over.
Cameron Wake. Tony Jefferson, Marcel Darius, former third overall selection. You got Jabal Sheard, Ezekiel Anza, Darius Geis. We don't talk about that.
No.
Taylor Gabriel, Clay Matthews.
How did Taylor Gabriel not make the Bears roster?
Because it's the Bears front office. You got Aqib Talib, Mohamed Sanu, Demarius Thomas, Kyle Long.
Was a thing.
Kyle Long, Wesley Woodyard, Marshawn Lynch, Paul Richardson rounds up the top 50.
There's a lot of guys on that list whose careers are probably over.
Yeah, there's not really anyone noticeable on the 51 through 100 list. There are some names, though. Blake Bortles.
Robbie Bortles.
It's going to be an interesting week 1.
It's going to be I project a lot of teams are probably going to come out pretty flat.
Yeah, I agree. There's not a lot of crazy guys available going in the next offseason. You can take a lot of these off the board. Aaron Jones is a free agent next offseason.
No.
Ooh,
Well,
this is what's going to happen. Marlon Mack, Colts running back, is a free agent next offseason. If I'm the Colts, I'm trading him and getting something.
Yeah, just something.
Because he won't be there next year. Receiver, Larry Fitzgerald, we don't got to talk about it. It's either Arizona or he retires. Curtis Samuel is a wide receiver. We have Samuel and Taylor Moton to deal with re-signing wise.
Samuel's gone.
And I don't think Samuel's going to be there.
Not either.
Cordell Patterson is still available. No, he's not. Sorry, he's in Chicago. He's going to be a free agent.
He's going to be.
Quarterback-wise, Mitchell Trubisky.
Yikes.
Dak Prescott, obviously. Why is Phillip Rivers on this list? Could have sworn y'all signed him to a 2-year deal.
I think it's a 1-year deal with a 2nd-year option, I think.
Okay. This is big right here. Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, man.
He won't be back.
No.
You don't take a quarterback 6 overall. I mean, like I said earlier, I think Tua has the highest ceiling, but with the way I've seen, I think Justin Herbert might end up being the best.
I agree. The Joe Burrow, like I said earlier, you know what you're going to get with Joe Burrow. Like, you know the player that he is. Tua is forever going to have durability issues now, I have a feeling, in the minds of people. So, yeah, I think Herbert definitely could end up being the best quarterback.
Going into, we talked about the Rams not having a first-round pick. They don't next year either.
Nope, they already traded it.
The Dolphins, Jaguars, and Jets have 2 first-round picks next year. The Dolphins got the second first round they got from Houston for Tunsil. Yeah. Jacksonville has the other one for Jalen Ramsey. And the Jets have their first of 2 for Jamal Adams. The Jacksonville Jaguars picks next year, they have so many.
Yeah. And they need to hit on every single one of them.
Which they won't.
No.
They legit will not, because
I did see a new mock draft that came out earlier on Bleacher Report. Has Trevor Lawrence going 1 to the Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
Trey Lance at 2 to Washington.
Whoa!
What?
Number 2 overall.
Yep, and then Justin Fields at 4 to y'all.
Wow. See what Walter Football has right now. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. Carolina at 2, Justin Fields. Here's my king with this, though. If we have the number 2 overall pick, as much as I like Fields, that pick has got to be Penei Sewell.
I agree.
We have not been able to replace Jordan Gross. It's been a rotating door. If you have the chance to pick Penei Sewell, that's got to be the pick.
Yeah, that's what the rest of the top 5 was. Cincinnati picked at 3. They got Penei Sewell, and then
this one has this one has Lawrence, Fields, Sewell to Washington, Jamar Chase to Cincinnati. 5, Alex Leatherwood at 5th overall to Chicago.
Yeah, that'd be a very Chicago thing to do.
Yeah, I think the pick is Trey Lance, though. They got Gregory Rousseau to Miami, Carlos Basham at 7 to the Chargers. 8, Micah Parsons. There is no way in hell he drops to 8.
I wouldn't think so.
But the Cleveland, Andre Sisco, safety to New York. Some of these I'm kind of confusing. They got Sam Cosmi, offensive tackle to Texas, Arizona.
I'm not big on Walter Football.
I'm not either. I course just like looking at them. Because
they do a lot. So they just reach a lot. They overthink it.
Yeah, let's look at Bleacher Reports. Oh, hey, we got the longest podcast ever, boys.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, like you said, Trevor, Washington football team, Trey Lance, Penei Sewell to Cincinnati, which would help Burrow out a lot.
Yeah.
Us, Justin Fields, Jamar Chase to New York, which would be so much needed for them. Micah Parsons to New York, yeah. Gregory Rousseau staying in the same stadium. Caleb Farley, 8 overall to Vegas.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that.
All right. 9 overall Detroit, Jalen Waddle. Good pick. Miami takes the other Bama receiver, Devontae Smith, from that Houston pick. Denver, Samuel Cosme. Makes sense. Arizona. Oh, another North Dakota State player.
Yeah.
Dylan Raduns?
Yes.
Arizona. Rondale Moore to Atlanta. Please no.
Right?
God, no.
That's it.
Alex Leatherwood to the Chargers.
That makes more sense than where they had Leatherwood earlier.
Rashad Bateman to Jacksonville. Yes, poor man.
Right.
Patrick Surtain to Cleveland. Ooh, Surtain and oof.
Yeah.
That's Jalen Mayfield to Chicago, offensive tackle. Sean Wade at 18 to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Walker Little to Green Bay. That would be such a Green Bay move.
The most Green Bay thing of all time.
Running back Najee Harris at 20 overall to Pittsburgh. A lot of people don't have even him going in this first round.
No.
21, Jordan Davis, Georgia to Minnesota. Dylan Moses to Buffalo. And please, God.
Oh, my Lord.
Dylan Moses. Sage Surratt, wide receiver to Indianapolis.
That's a big man.
Yeah. J.C. Horn, defensive back
I don't
to New
really
York.
like that pick because we basically just drafted the exact same body type.
Hey, there's my man. The best safety in the draft, Javon Holland.
Yep.
To Philadelphia.
Oh, boy.
Patriots, Trey Smith. Dallas, Andre Sisco. That makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh.
Tampa Bay. Oh, my God. I will literally... No. Travis Etienne. Chris Olave to New Orleans. Christian Barmore to Baltimore.
Barmore to Baltimore. Oh,
Caden
my.
Stearns, safety to San Fran. Wyatt Davis, the final pick of the round to Kansas City.
I can see that.
A lot of notable names in the second round. Pat Freiermuth to Jacksonville. Kyle Pitts to Washington. 2 tight ends straight off the board in the second round. Carlos Basham Jr. to New York. Chuba Hubbard to Miami.
That's what Miami needs, another running back.
Let's see. Kyle Trask at 49 overall to Chicago. Green Bay at 51 overall, Justin Ross. Whoever gets Justin Ross is getting a steal.
Yes, they are.
Marvin Wilson at 59 overall. There is no way.
Yeah. I was real sad.
He's the first-round pick. Get out of here with that. Another potential first-round pick in Paulson Adebo at 65 overall. You know who sucks they won't be playing because he could be a first-round pick is out of Oregon State, Hamaclair Rashed Jr., linebacker.
Yeah.
Very good. Crazy, I have not seen Amon-Ra St. Brown yet.
Yeah, I don't even remember where he was, actually.
He's not on there in that third-round mock. It's very, very interesting. The draft is always one of my favorite things of the year.
Oh, mine too.
And then I get to overanalyze everything and get mad at Carolina for picking people they shouldn't pick. Even though this year it was clear as day Matt Rule was in charge of that draft.
Oh, absolutely.
With that pick, with the Gross Matos pick, which how we got him, what we did, and my favorite pick, honestly, Jeremy Chin, who's going to be starting at safety next Sunday. Safety or linebacker, one of the two.
Yay, football.
Honestly, though, they have Justin Burris, who I think could start at safety, and they'll just put Jeremy Chin at the other linebacker position, which is kind of needed right now with
probably the smartest move.
Tahir Whitehead and Shaq Thompson.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting week 1. It's all going to kick off on Thursday night, and full-time schedule makes me miss like half the game, but not half of it, just kind of, I think the first quarter or whatever it is.
Probably.
Houston and Kansas City. I'm just excited to watch football. Tonight is the first notable college football game of the season, BYU and Navy.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have BYU winning this game. What do you think?
I'm leaning that way too. I think it's going to be BYU.
Next Saturday, the ACC opens up the college football season, except for Virginia Tech and Virginia. Florida State will be at Georgia Tech, excuse me. Which I think is a easily winnable game for the Seminoles.
I do too. I think we need to come out and set a tone pretty early.
I think Clemson's playing Wake.
I think so.
Virginia Tech, Virginia, the Commonwealth Cup. Virginia last year won for the first time in 15 years. Virginia Tech is looking to retake it. They're looking to retake it. I think they do, and that is not a bias because I'm a Virginia Tech fan. That is me looking at, in the terms of UVA is unveiling. They have a new quarterback who is a true sophomore.
Yes.
These are the games that we have on Saturday, September 12th. Syracuse will travel to number 18, North Carolina. Duke goes to number 10, Notre Dame, because Notre Dame is part of the ACC this year. Georgia Tech is traveling to Tallahassee. Florida State. Austin Peay, who has played a game, will go to Pitt. Clemson will go to Wake Forest, and Western Kentucky will go to Louisville. Thursday is UAB at the U.
Miami should run them out of the building.
Like I said, Virginia Tech is the more notable week 3 game technically for the ACC. No thing really of note. You got Charlotte is going to North Carolina, and the Citadel is at Clemson.
Yikes.
Which they're kind of in a bind because Clemson could only schedule non-conference.
Yeah.
One of the more interesting ACC games this year. I'm trying to remember which week it is. If we get to that is Saturday, November 7th, week 10, Clemson traveling to Notre Dame.
Yeah. That game, as you said, if we make it that far, is going to be insane.
I think Clemson and Notre Dame end up playing twice.
I do too.
I will say this. Tech's got a very favorable schedule to go on a 10-win season.
Yeah.
I think it's going to depend on that North Carolina game. I just don't see anyone. Notre Dame is. It's going to be Clemson Notre Dame 2 times.
I think so too.
What? Tech's going to get their chance against Clemson final week of the year. If of course we get there. I'll be honest with the way it's. I think we're going to get through it.
I do too. At this point in time, I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah, I think we're going to get through it. NFL obviously isn't going to be a problem. NBA's heating up. The getting too close to the conference finals.
NA Sewell just officially opted out for the season.
Well, I mean, I figured that.
I mean,
sucks to see him play his last game, but I kind of figured. As apparently, from what I understand, there's been Asol's tweet. The Big Ten is trying to start in October or before Thanksgiving.
yeah.
The Pac-12 is trying to start in the winter, like December, January.
Which for the Pac-12, that'll be fine because the weather doesn't suck out there.
No. For the Big Ten.
That they're going to be playing in snow.
For the Pac-12, just say if you start there, like, here's the thing. With that, the Pac-12, even with Oregon losing Panay and Javon Holland, I still think they're the favorite, and it's not biased. It's just they've got so much talent.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, that's... The Raiders have signed Deshaun Kaiser to their practice squad. That's... Jaguars signing everybody on their practice squad, it seems like.
Right. I mean, they don't really have much of a choice.
No, they suck. Pretty much it for the most part.
That about does it.
Went through the transactions, went through the 8 games. We are at an hour and 51 minutes. The longest podcast. Also known as Get Used to That Time.
Yeah. Right.
As this is how it's going to be from weekday on. In episode 15, we will go over the week 1 games in detail and do a
reviews and previews.
And doing a little preview. Doing a little previews. Hopefully we'll have our special guest, but we'll coordinate with that.
Yeah.
It'll come on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I hope y'all enjoy the college football game tonight. I hope y'all enjoy Thursday night and this weekend. Football is officially back. I'm hyped. Good luck to Delby's Eagles, Buddha's Cowboys, Carl's Colts, and my Panthers in their respective games. But that's going to do it for episode 14. That is Carl. This is me. We will see y'all next week. Enjoy the football this weekend. That was episode 14. The Boyz out.
See you guys.